Hello and welcome to Entirely English. Today I'm doing a video for those people who are studying for their IELTS exams, particularly for those people who are focusing on their speaking exam. It is, for some reason, the part that makes most people feel anxious and nervous, but it's actually the nicest part of the exam. So let's have a look. We're going to begin with part one, and part one is so easy. It's one of the nice things about the IELTS exam is that they draw you into it in stages. Part one is very easy, part two takes a bit more thought, and part three is very deep. But the process enables you to overcome your nerves and feel more confident in speaking. It's one of the best things about the exam. So in part one, you will enter the room and the examiner will say, "Hello, my name is Chris, nice to meet you." And you will respond with, alright, something like, "Hello, my name is Marie, nice to meet you." And then they will ask for your ID, and you'll sit down at the table. Maybe you've sat down at the table already. And then they'll begin with part one, and it's so natural. It's just chit-chat. It's conversation you'd have with a stranger at a party. They'd say like, "Okay, Marie, where are you from?" And you say, "Oh, I'm from Paris." I say, "Oh, and what part of Paris are you from?" You say, "I come from I don't know Paris, central part of Paris. I live next door to the Eiffel Tower." And they'll ask you something like, "What is the best thing about your city?" And do you go to school or do you work? Do you live in a house or do you live in a flat? They might ask you about your holidays. Where do you like to go on holiday? So there'll be simple things, all on a theme, one thing leading into the next. What's your name? Where are you from? What do you think of that place? What's it like? So it's very useful here to have in your mind some adjectives. Like, it's very pretty, it's picturesque, it's noisy, it's bustling. So get yourself a list of adjectives you can use to describe. If they ask about your home, if you live in a flat, it might be cold, it might be warm, it might be big, it might be small, it might be airy, it might be bright. So make yourself a list of some things that you can memorize. It doesn't have to be too many, because this is a short part of the exam. Okay? So simply, "Hello, my name's Chris, and where are you from? Do you like living there? What is the best thing about living there? Do you ever go to other towns? Do you like to go abroad? How long have you lived where you're living?" Alright, thank you. And that's it. It's so simple. Your answers should be one or two sentences. Just short, simple sentences, like if you're talking to somebody you just met at a party. Maybe you can add some detail, like if you say, "I come from Kiev. It's the capital of Ukraine." If there's a possibility they wouldn't know. Paris, yeah, you might say, "I come from Paris, the capital of France," as opposed to Paris, Texas. So add a bit of detail, but not too much. They don't want you to talk too much. This is just about becoming familiar. In part two of the exam, they will give you a question. And this question is in the form of a statement, an instruction, a piece of a card will probably be given to you. And yes, unless you're doing the computerized version, which I particularly hate, if you can choose to do it with a human, it's much better. You have that feeling. It's like me now talking to the camera. It's not quite natural. When you talk to somebody else, you have that feeling, that connection. So if you have the option, go for a human. And they're also more forgiving. It's not just right and wrong answers. They can understand and lead you into the next point. So I'm going to show you a question here. You see the sort of thing you have. Describe a lake or a river or a sea you have visited. You should say where the lake is, how often you have visited it, what activities you do there, and explain why you like this particular place. They'll give you that card, and then you have 1 minute to make some notes. First important thing here, use that time. Make your notes. Brainstorm. You know brainstorming? You've got the piece of paper, you've got a piece of paper to make notes on. My advice would be put the card with the question in the middle of the piece of paper, then draw lines and quickly note down some thoughts, like the name of the river, lake or sea, where it is, how often you visited it, once maybe in your whole life, twice every year, what activities you do there, and what is particularly nice about it. Right? You've still got plenty of time, still got half a minute. Add some more details to each one of those. Now the second important thing is the examiner will then say, okay, could you describe a lake, a sea or river you have visited? And you have 2 minutes to talk about it, and you should talk about it continually. This is not like giving a lecture. Do not worry. Right? A lot of people make the mistake of they made the notes and then they just speak. So they might say, oh, I went to the River Thames when I was a child with my grandfather. He was an old man then. He's still an old man now. He fought in the war. He's a great guy. He tells such wonderful... And they've gone completely off the subject. Use your notes to keep yourself focused. Don't worry about looking down. Blah, 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 blah. Just don't look down all the time. Try to keep some eye contact. But do use your notes. It's very important. You're given that minute to make notes for a reason. Okay. Now I want you to pause the video for a minute and make some notes. Alright, obviously you don't have the card, you're going to have to keep looking at the screen for the question. I'll leave it up there, and then I'll ask you when I want you to start. Alright, so after you press play again, I will ask you to start. So use a minute to make some notes. Now. Okay, good. So now we're going to do the exam part. I'm going to ask you the question, and you're going to speak for 2 minutes. Alright, so please describe a river, a sea or a lake that you have visited. Right, I'm not going to sit here for 2 minutes, pause the video, try to talk. Okay, hopefully you've come back, you've realised the problems you have, and I'll tell you the first problem you have, the mistake that most people make, and this is my first strategy I want to give you. Right, you said, like I went to Lake Titicaca. It's a great big lake in the Americas, and I've only visited it once, but I went there with my... But then you talked on, and you probably didn't get to the last point, explain why you like this particular place. Right? So this is strategy number 1. Go through all of the points immediately. Right? Because you will lose marks if you don't cover all the points. You are asked to say where the lake is, how often you visited it, what activities you do there, and explain why you like this particular place. So go through it right from the beginning. Right. I went to Lake Windermere. It's in the north of England. I've only visited it once, but it was very nice, and we did some windsurfing there and some scuba diving and whale hunting, and I liked it past tense, because it was so unspoilt and so natural. Right. I've covered all of those parts, and then I can go back to the beginning and expand on them. Okay, I'll give you another example. I went to the Black Sea. This is between Ukraine and Turkey. I've only visited it once, but we went swimming there, sunbathing, and played games on the beach. I liked it very much because it was so unspoiled and not commercialized. And then I go back to the beginning. I went there when I was living in Ukraine. We went to Crimea for a weekend. Right, so you talk, go through all the points and then go through them again. Okay? So I want you to think about that, and then pause the video and try it again. Go through all of the points and then go back through them. Time yourself on your computer clock. Just see if you can speak for 2 minutes. You'll find it's much easier. Okay? Pause it now. Alright, welcome back. Part 3, excuse me, part 3 of the exam, speaking test part 3, is normally 3 or 4 more questions. They will normally begin linking into what you've just talked about. So as I said, this natural progress, your mind is still in that gear. And then they will ask some more questions about it. So they'll say thank you after you finish speaking. Now I'd like to ask you, what importance do things like lakes and the sea and rivers play in our lives? Right? Quite a deep question. Right? So think about it. Think about it. What importance? Think about how it's important to you. Normally go for the first thing that comes to your mind. Right? Water is the source of life, and we all feel really good when we're near it. In this part, you are expected to talk a little bit more than the 1 or 2 sentences you had in the first part. These are maybe 4 or 5 sentences. Get some good description in there. If you're going on too long, the examiner will say thank you and move on to the next question. But the important thing is to speak. If you don't know the answer, don't be afraid. If the examiner says, what importance do lakes, rivers and seas play in our lives, say, I have no idea. I know I like going to the beach. I know it makes me feel good. Or, no, that's it, that's fine. Right, then you might ask another question. How important is it for us to keep our seas, rivers and lakes clean? We're into the environment now. And you should be able to bring up some answers for that. We drink the water, we swim in the water. And then he might take that on the sidetrack and talk about how can people in the home help the environment. And then you start talking about recycling and energy saving, things like that. Okay. So this video is done. Do feel free to go back and run through it and try the question again and again. I'll pop some other examples of questions that are asked in the description below, so do have a look, and good luck. Don't worry, the speaking part is actually very nice once you overcome your nerves. Okay, so bye bye for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe.